Good afternoon. Thank you again for joining my presentation this afternoon, the male brain and the female brain. There were a number of questions that we didn't get to during our time frame, so I have them in front of me here on my screen, so I'm going to go through these and answer them the best I can. So first question is asking me what department I teach in. I teach in the College of Education in the Department of Educational Leadership and Research Methodology, teaching mostly research methods and statistics. There's another question in here, maybe men don't listen as well as women, and that's why their ears are less developed. This is possible. Maybe there is processing within the brain that the man's brain doesn't process as much sound, so that causes their ear not to be as developed. Let's see, given these differences, can you suggest exercises or books on the issue of how men and women can communicate more effectively? I can't think of any books or exercises. What I would suggest, rather than going to just google.com, I would go to Google/Scholar. If you just look at Google Scholar, you can look up this information and you'll find articles, research, and literature that has been completed and conducted at universities and institutions. So this would be much more evidence-based information. So rather than Google, go to Google Scholar and search for this information, and you'll get some good evidence-based content. Were these studies conducted with participants from different countries or just one country? This topic is very international. If you remember, the Sex on the Brain video was done by Dr. Holstege, and he is from the Netherlands. This is very international. This topic crosses boundaries. What is the influence of testosterone on the brain? Is there an influence of the level of testosterone on the neural processes of the brain? Does this mean that men think faster or process information faster? So this is an interesting topic. There was a study that looked at testosterone and cognitive performance. They took out 250 men. Half of that group, they used a gel testosterone that they rubbed into their arm. The other group used a placebo. After a period of time, they both completed a cognitive test, and they found that the folks that were using the gel testosterone actually underperformed on the cognitive test. The researchers felt that this might be due to knee-jerk reactions, possibly faster response rates. So even though they were responding at a faster rate, their error rate was also higher. There's quite a bit of literature about testosterone and cognitive performance. That story is just developing. What are the possible implications of differences between the male and female brain relating to learning and teaching? So this is pretty vast as well. I would consider looking at Kolb's learning style inventory. That might be a nice inventory to look at. Look at some gender differences based on that inventory. I don't know of other styles, but we can assume that since women process verbal language a little bit different, that they certainly might be learning a little bit different in the classroom. Does the difference in pain sensitivity have anything to do with how men are raised to be macho? This would be more of an environment topic, and I would potentially say certainly. I can imagine growing up, and I see this when I'm just observing kids. A little boy falls and somebody runs over and just brushes their pants off and go run and play. So there is a possibility that there is some environmental aspect to boys being treated in a certain way that ultimately leads them to not sharing their level of pain that they may be experiencing. Is there a direct relationship with men just stating the number on the menu and the woman discussing the items, and the development of language in women and men and math in men? So this, I think, goes to the video we watched from Harry Met Sally. I don't know of much literature relative to that topic, although if women speak more, they may want to describe what their interest is more so than a man. Can you talk about the cross-cultural differences or similarities in these studies? Are there differences depending on population being studied? Certainly, there are cultural differences. We talked about pain in my presentation. There have been studies that show, for example, childbirth, women in India describe less pain during childbirth than women in the United States. This might be due to cultural aspects, perceptions of childbirth, pain management, maybe different forms of meditation, but culturally they do view the pain to childbirth, for example, as differently. So there are certain cultural differences within this realm. Can you tell us a bit about how intersex individuals perform on these tests and experiments? I have not come across much literature on intersex performance on these tasks. I would not expect much difference. If male math and female language, how would this pairing affect a woman's success in science and math? Does that mean male is more heritability susceptible in pursuing math, and females more susceptible to language literature? This is possible. Certainly we're raised in certain ways, right? So our parents may be pushing us in certain fields and may promote a certain topic more so with a boy than a girl. I don't know about the neurological differences. We did talk about boys and girls developing math and language skills younger, but I'm not sure how much of this is truly environment versus nature. Have you considered how gender socialization impacts the brain and gendered behavior? Certainly, there's quite a bit of gender socialization and how it impacts the brain, and certainly gendered behavior. There's been a number of studies using rhesus monkeys. There was a study recently that looked at rhesus monkeys, infants, male monkeys, and female monkeys. And what they did notice was the female monkeys had a tendency to prefer soft objects, and the male monkeys tended to prefer more moving objects. This would be assumed not based on environment, but more potentially neurologically based. But this is still this information is very much in the infancy. Is there research that supports the sex difference in the brain or behavior are often attributed to hormones? So hormones certainly play a role in the brain, right? We know that hormones guide brain development. We also know that they can act as neurotransmitters, affecting how we signal our neural signaling. So hormones certainly play a role in this. How much, in what ways? Stay tuned. That would be a very interesting study if you ever would like to get into that area of research. With respect to males not responding well to emotional aspects of a woman's talking, is that a defect in men not understanding the prosody of the woman's words, or are we just too stupid to pick up the meanings? I think what's happening is the male is already processing information. So as soon as the woman starts talking, the male is already processing a response and not paying attention to other aspects of the conversation. Where women, I believe, may be processing information and still listening until they start processing a decision or a response. Again, that's just a guess, but that would be a very interesting study if somebody would like to do that. Did the sex study obtain IRB approval? I sure hope so. It was at a university, so let's hope they did get IRB approval in the Netherlands. Does the male brain produce more endorphins than females that affects pain tolerance? I think the pain tolerance is probably more nature than nurture, so I'm not exactly sure how much if male brain produces more endorphins. I'm not familiar with that point, but I do believe the pain threshold might be different, primarily due to the environment that we're in. Do men and women process written reports differently? Good study. We talked about the one that looked at listening to a novel, a book, and how the brains process the information differently. So another study could certainly be where they have them just physically read something and see what's happening within the brain. Very interesting study. What are your COVID studies regarding elders? So senior citizens and COVID-19, this is a topic of great interest. How are senior citizens dealing with the COVID-19? How are they responding emotionally, social behaviorally? How is their well-being, just beyond this fact of understanding that this virus impacts seniors more so than younger population? It'd be interesting to know how are our senior citizens responding. So that is a study that we're hoping to look for. If you have any interest in collaborating or helping us with this type of research, please contact me or the Division of Research. Does the studies change for people whose sexual orientation and gender identification differ from heterosexuals? I'm not familiar with much research in the different sexual orientation. I would venture to say that there's probably not much difference, but I have not seen any literature or have studied that to any degree, so I really can't comment. Does the human brain retain knowledge after a cram study session when preparing for exams? It does to a degree, but as we know, forgetting happens pretty quick. You may be familiar with Ebbinghaus, the forgetting curve, and how quickly we forget. So typically what you want to do, and when you study for a course, instead of cramming the night before, is you want to do spaced out studying. You want to learn the material over a period of time. That strengthens the neural synapse and makes the information readily available, and also you retain it for a longer period of time. So cramming generally is not an ideal way to study. You retain the information for a short period of time, but then you tend to forget it. Space out your studying, and there are other studying techniques that I'd be happy to share with you. Contact me. I can talk you through some of those other study skills that will help you retain the information a much longer time. Could a similar question be asked for those who are female poker players? Okay, so we talked about chess, and mostly males are playing chess. Could we think about the same thing for poker? Sure. Poker adds a number of elements that chess does not include. There is the element of bluffing in poker, which we don't have in chess. Poker also has incomplete information. So there are additional variables that might be shown through tells, as we see on the poker table. So women may be equally skilled at poker. And in my experience watching poker, there are a number of women playing poker nowadays. Again, it might have been more due to the fact that poker has been traditionally played by males, but as more females play it, you're going to see more females winning tournaments. And lastly, does handedness play a role in the differences? I don't think so. Handedness, certainly there's an environmental aspect to handedness. We are a right-handed society, which causes some challenges for left-handed folks, but I don't know of any physiological differences between left-handed and right-handed folks. So that's it for the questions. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you have questions or comments, would like to collaborate, or would like to discuss helping us out with our research. Look forward to speaking with you again. Stay healthy and look forward to seeing you. Bye.